Today I'm going to be sharing my Smart Art Box project for April. Hi, I'm Lisa, the artist behind Lachri Fine Art. If you are unfamiliar with what the Smart Art Box is, it is a monthly subscription box where every month you have a box full of full-size art supplies sent to your home, complete with a brochure that goes over the history of whatever style you're working in. It gives you project pointers. It goes over all of the supplies that came in the kit, along with how best to use them, and on the back you get step-by-step instructions. So if it's something you've never done before, you're not going to feel totally lost. Just for transparency, this video is being sponsored by Smart Art Box. And in the video description, I will have a coupon code that will give you a discount off your subscription for life, along with a list of all the countries that this box is available in. So let's take a look at what came in my box this month. So opening up my fancy box with the pretty tissue paper, we've got the brochure, which we have already gone over. A whole bunch of stuff in here. This one is Solarfast. It is a 4-ounce purple dye. Next we have these sponge brush things. I love these. I always love when I have extra of those. I use those for everything. Next we have a set of 10 Solarfast film. These are in 8.5 by 5.5. Numbers are hard. Next we've got this film marker. That is in a black marker, and the Solarfast Wash for after you finish the project, and a nice cradle board. This one is by Ampersand. It is an unprimed basswood. So this box for me was not ideal just because I don't really have access to sunlight to let a project lay flat to dry. So even though I knew I wouldn't really be able to finish this properly, I did want to go ahead and walk you through the processes of how this works. So what you want to do first is draw out your project on a separate piece of paper. Then I taped my film right on top of that so that it wouldn't slide around, and I'm using the film marker to trace out my subject. You want your lines to ideally be really bulky, very thick. That's going to look best on this. You want a lot of high contrast. The great thing with these boxes, this came with 10 sheets of the film, and you have plenty of the paint or the dye and the wash to use, so you can do this on things other than the cradle board. The cradle board's really nice, but you can do this on other sheets of paper. So if your first project doesn't come out quite right, it is no big deal. You've got plenty to try again with. So everywhere where I'm blocking in the black, that's actually the area that's going to stay the lightest once this develops. So you're kind of working in reverse. If you wanted an area to be very dark, that's the area that you're going to leave with no marker at all. I'm going through and making a lot of my lines much more bold because that's really going to make a big difference on how well this shows up. You just want to fill all that in, and I am putting a lot more black than what my design originally called for, just so that I knew I would have more detailing in the finished project. Well, assuming I had access to the sun. So blocking all that in there. And I know people will think, how do you not have access to the sunlight? My apartment has very, very bright indirect sunlight. It's perfect for orchids. Many of you know I grow orchids. They love it here, but it's not so good for anything that needs direct sunlight. My balcony gets a few hours of kind of indirect in the morning, and that's about as far as it goes. So there really wasn't anywhere for me to put this where if I put it outside, like in the parking lot, neighbors would walk by and be like, why is this sitting here? And it would probably get thrown away. So there was no way for me to really make this work. Well, I guess there was if I wanted to sit out in the parking lot for the next half an hour, which I did not, but you guys will get the point. Shading more of this in here. You can see adding a lot of the little black sketchy lines. Add some more in this guy, so he's got some more detailing. Making all of those lines a bit more bold. And another cool thing you can do is take other objects. I could have taken, let's say, a dried flower or something that I could kind of lay flat. You can lay things. I could have laid dimes on this. Anything you want, you can lay on here. The dimes would have made for good circles. You can lay something on there, and that will help to create shapes too. You just want to keep, obviously, everything flat as it dries so it doesn't roll off. So now onto the cradle board. I'm applying the dye directly to this and using the sponge to spread it around. You do not need very much of this. A little bit goes a very long ways. And you can see here how very light this is. It looks like nothing's happening. Trust me, it's going to get a lot darker, assuming you have access to the sun. Painting that on, keeping it nice and smooth. I don't want big globs, or I don't need, I should say, big globs of that dye on there. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more to my panel. Not too much, and I'm just pouring it directly on. I don't need a separate palette or anything, so I'm not mixing color. You can see just a tiny bit. So you can see with that big bottle too, how far that's going to go. So I could try this, assuming I ever have access to the sun. I could try this on other pieces of paper. This, I think people can use this on fabric. I've seen it done on a few different things. It was pretty cool. I'm going to add a little bit more. Some of these areas seemed pretty dry. If you get too much, just take a paper towel and wipe some off. And like I said, it'll look like you have nothing on there, but you do. You don't need to put too much on here. So once this is done, I'm going to take my drawing and just stick it right on top of this. I'm going to kind of center that a little bit, or try to center it, and it'll stick to the wet ink or the dye that's on that board, so it sticks really well. I had wanted to see if this would work. The instructions said if you put it in indoor lighting, you would want to expose it for twice the time. So instead of 20 to 30 minutes, you are now going an hour, hour and 10. I put it in under the lights on strong aught lights for an hour and 15 minutes. You could hardly see anything. The ink was really pale. You could sort of see the pattern, but it was just not strong enough. I really would recommend use the sun. Plan on, I mean, if you have time, you could sit out in the sun in your parking lot like I could have, which I did not. My neighbors already think I'm weird. So after having my project under the aught lights for an hour and 15 minutes, I went ahead and washed everything off using the Solarfast Wash that it comes with, and I went ahead and set it. I had a little bit of light at that point coming through one of my windows, not enough that I could have set a finished project and let it exposed for any length of time, but I did put it in what was left on the board in the sun so you could see how much more of a dark purple it got, and that was after I washed the dye off. So that dye will get really, really dark. If you do this project as intended with the sun letting it set out, you'll get a really pretty effect with the deep purple and then the white lines, or the, in this case, lines of the cradle board, so that tan color will show through for whatever detail you had filled in, and that would be the areas that you filled in with black. Those are the areas that will stay white on the finished project, or light tan here. I've got a lot of ideas for this cradle board though. If you are interested in signing up to get your own box of art supplies sent to you every month, I will have a link for that along with that coupon code I mentioned earlier below in the video description. Not having sunlight is not normally a problem for me. Have you subscribed yet? If not, I have a handy button right there. It's round, has an orange arrow going to it that actually says subscribe. If you click on that, that'll help you to keep up to date with all 5 of my new art videos every single week.